Hi everybody, this is Mixopolis Chanoble. Day 18 of 31 days of halfway to Halloween reaction videos. We're supposed to have Steammoth, Squidfraid and Unducky reacting to Steel-type Pokemon are not all steel by Gnoggin. And at the very start of this video, there was a footage of a very first Pokemon intro, and here's the map of Pokemon, upper world of Pokemon, and a few Pokemon, and a screenshot of one Pokemon episode. And here we are. Steel type Pokemon are not all steel, then why they is shiny like steel?
Then what type of metal is it for each Pokemon individually, that is? And that is exactly what this video is about. What type of metal specifically are each of the steel type Pokemon? Because they can't all be steel, clearly.
And the anvil hit Gnoggin.
The steel type was introduced in Generation 2,
Blacksmith reference.
to balance out the other types a bit. Steel was added to the type
And behind the icon are two Pokemon games. And here's Magneton and its evolution.
Against both physical and special attacks, and a large number of resistances. Also, they tend to be heavy, and thus.
And here's Range's Steel.
Pokemon are mainly inorganic in nature.
And here's the Sword and Bell Pokemon. And that Gear Pokemon.
Out of all the Pokemon, there are only 5 pure Steel-type Pokemon as of Gen 7, and this is including Mega Evolution. The 4 pure Steel are Registeel, Clang, and Clang. Beautiful names. Beautiful Pokemon.
Here the Reclank Pokemon. And here's that Steel-type Pokemon.
47 of them to be exact. So
I think this one has holes.
So first, let's break these down into categories. For the first category, we're going to look at Pokemon that eat rocks or metal and then use the minerals they ingest to create this hard and metal shell. Here we get the Aaron line and the Ferroseed line.
Here's Aaron and that Pinecone Pokemon. Reminded me of that Godzilla Kaiju sort of guy. And there are the Iron Pokemon.
Although they are not pure iron, as they can eat any metal they can get a hold of, even going as far as to eat train tracks, because that's what the Pokemon world needs, more train crashes. Thanks, Aaron.
Oh, no problem.
But the combination of eating rocks and metal could be why they have rockier bottoms and insides and a more steel-like form. Steel, after all, is iron and carbon. This would explain the rock steel typing too. And when Aggron Mega evolves, it loses the rock typing to become pure steel. And looking at it,
here's the Mega Aggron.
Trading in all of the iron for more steel. The Ferroseed line is similar in appearance to a
And there's the Pinecone Pokemon and its evolution. Why is Lemon Grab from Adventure Time here?
Thus, both Ferroseed and Ferrothorn are covered in iron, especially given the name, since Ferro means to contain iron. Both of these Pokemon likely make their shells much like how turtles make their own shells, as an extension of their
And here's the turtle skeleton and human skeleton.
Going to say their bones are inorganic, or at least the minerals the Pokemon ingest are inorganic, so therefore they are made from inorganic parts. Human bones are made up of collagen and hydroxyapatite, hydroxyapatite, hydroepoxyapatite, this word, which is a form of calcium. Quick fact, calcium is technically a metal, so we do have metal skeletons. Way more on that here, a video about what life would be like if you woke up one day with a metal skeleton. It's pretty cool, check it out. So are humans in the Pokemon world for Steel type too?
And 2 Pokemon trainers?
Just simple, boring, normal type. So uninteresting and uninspired, just like normal type Pokemon. Next are the Steel type Pokemon that wear metal as armor or for tools. It's not explained fully as to where they get the metal. Some possibly find the metal and slowly form it to their needs, or they have stolen the
And
items
here are the
and
Pokemon in shiny armor.
Excadrill, Empoleon, Escavalier, Ponyard, Bisharp, Fortress, Steelix, Mega Steelix, Scizor, Dialga, and Genesect. First, let's look at Wormadam, a bagworm Pokemon.
And here's the Bagworm Pokemon. By the way, hey, and there are several different colors of it.
It looks like it is made up of insulation or fiberglass that was thrown into the garbage. This may not be metal, but fiberglass is quite strong for its size.
And I think the last one we've seen are
sheet metal, along with the benefits of not rusting.
Owen's Corning's fiberglass.
More Pokemon fans really need to understand. Being a certain type of Pokemon doesn't mean that the Pokemon is that thing. Like how in this video, Steel-type Pokemon aren't necessarily made of steel exactly, specifically steel. No, they're not. They just have steel-like properties. Much like how not all Ghost-type Pokemon are actually ghosts. They just have ghost-like properties. So, Wormadam's trash coat doesn't have to actually be metal just because it's steel-type. It just has to be hard enough. Hard as steel, so to speak, and thus, being like steel makes them steel-type. This logic also covers Fortress, another bagworm Pokemon.
And here's Fortress. Another bag Pokemon?
Steel, but not actually steel. Until later, when later Pokedex entries state that its shell is steel, but then again that it's just hard as steel. This is why you don't let kids write out encyclopedias, so we don't really know about Fortress thanks to these darn kids. Moving on now, Escavalier is a bug steel.
Here is Calyspy.
This Pokemon gains its armor from a fellow bug named Shelmet. This armor is reminiscent
And
of
Shelmet.
plating down to the lance weapons, and that also explains the name. This armor back in the day was made of some decent steel or iron. It is unknown as to why Carablast takes Shelmet's armor, just that it happens while trading. Something goes wrong and the two Pokemon gain the traits of the other. This is also the only way Escavaliers exist. They don't evolve in the wild. You need to be with a trainer trading it. So this armor being
And isn't that Escavalier? And here's Steelix. And the Mantis Pokemon? And here is Onyx.
Even harder than diamond. Naturally speaking, chromium is the hardest metal, though the man-made steel is the hardest alloy. Being stronger than any metal means that Steelix must be some sort of hypersteel. But remember, it is only coating the Steelix. As for Scizor, its Pokedex
Here's
entry states that its body has the hardness of steel, rather than being actually made of steel. But it does mention that its claws contain steel. Steel may be spread throughout Scizor's exoskeleton, but it's an alloy of sorts, mixing metal with the usual exoskeleton material. Dialga is a large dragon
Here's
that
Dialga.
even created time in the Pokemon universe. You know, the one that 11-year-olds run around with. Well, based off his appearance and his typing, he most likely
Oh yeah, keep in mind
that
that
that adorn his body. It is possible that his steel
since
typing
all
comes
the
from the
Pokemon
hardness of
trainers'
diamonds,
name
or
is
perhaps
Pharaoh,
normally have no
this,
fear.
the footage you see last was covered. In fact, Gnoggin is pretty worried that he was gonna get in trouble for stealing the footage. And here's the final form of Nosepass.
These toys were filled with metal shavings, mostly iron, and they would
Yeah,
around an internal
it's kind of like Willy Willy.
As we see Nosepass evolve into Probopass only while leveling up in a highly magnetic zone, meaning that the mustache you see is
And I think
iron shavings.
I've actually done the reaction video to rock type Pokemon are all wrong. This can be seen in another video. Here's Con here.
And it looks like it's wearing Ashigaru armor, which was Japanese foot soldier armor. Being based off of Japanese foot soldiers, it's definitely made of iron and steel, most likely low grade. Its weapons would also be made of low grade steel, just like katanas and other ancient Japanese blades, while its armor is made of iron plates, about the size of cards. Bioshock has a double
Can use
attack
Bite
This
Shop.
Pokemon is a direct upgrade from Ponyard. First off, it doesn't have the word pawn in it. This Pokemon resembles a samurai, but again, the armor is most likely just iron. And its weapons are again.
Why is that
It is
samurai
unknown if
mask?
this Pokemon is born with the knives and armor, or if it finds or makes them. And yes, I know. If you hatch it, it has knives and armor, but that's for gameplay mechanics, not lore. You know. Moving on, Genesect. This
Here's
creature was transformed
Genesect.
from its normal extinct self into a weapon of mass destruction by Team Plasma. Much like Mewtwo, this Pokemon was made by science. It has an alloy exoskeleton that either replaced the exoskeleton of the Pokemon or covers it. It also had a large cannon attached to its back. Being a high-grade military weapon made by science, Genesect's armor is very likely to be made of high-grade reinforced titanium, or a high-grade titanium steel alloy. Titanium has one of the highest weights to strength ratios for metals. It also happens to resist corrosion and oxidization. I mean, at least if I were to make a robot of mass destruction, I'd make it out of a titanium alloy. Now on to the next category. We have Pokemon that have adapted to their environment by adding the steel typing. Here we have Sandslash, Sandshrew, Pidgeot, and Dugtrio. Alolan form Sandslash and Sandshrew.
And here is the lone form of Sandshrew and Sandslash.
Pokemon to need to adapt to snowy peaks. The typing changed accordingly, and it is now covered in a thick ice armor and has harder claws so it can better move in the icy terrain. This thick layer of ice on its back forms an almost steel-like armor around its body, preventing it from rolling up into a ball but giving it much more defense. Sandshrew's claws, though, are most likely a hardened keratin that help it grip the ice better. Keratin, of course, being normal claw material. When it evolves, though,